China as a market today, if you look at the smartphone platforms, iOS and Android primarily, it's already the largest market in the world in terms of monthly user activations. So it surpassed the US back in February 2012. App sessions, it's also the largest. But more importantly, it's not only one of the largest markets in the world overall, it's also one of the fastest growing. So if you look at some of the numbers, right, in China as of the end of 2011, a number of different media research industry sources point to anywhere from 60 to 80 million smartphones installed in the China market. That number is going to increase by 100 to 120 million in 2012. So doubling year on year. That trend is set to continue.
Why Windows Phone?
We think it's going to be big.
You do?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, personally, definitely. Yeah, I do. Yeah, and I think it's good for the market as well. Have three companies to compete to each other, and it's good for the developer.
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of devices, it's pretty settled that Android will outpace the iOS devices. Who's going to win out? Who monetizes better? What's the area under the curve? It's a math problem, and it's hard to say. But at the end of the day, I think at current point in time, I think it's safe for us to say that we're not developing a BlackBerry or a Nokia.
China is completely different, right? iOS just started to collect local currency as payment. Mm-hmm. So finally, iTunes is getting on track in terms of being the go-to place for iOS game downloads. Mm-hmm. Android, however, is really fragmented. There are probably altogether 200 somewhat app stores, Android app stores that exist here in China, with 50 to 70 of them being big enough, names that locals have heard of. So distribution is a big challenge for Western game developers.
What are the most popular payment gateways in China right now for mobile?
The interesting thing is there isn't any right now. Okay, so like what I said, there are existing 200 different stores that are out there right now. There are 60 to 70 of them that are actually popular, but there are no clear leaders in all of them, right? Every single one of these app stores right now require their own unique SDK. Okay. So they all have their own platform. They all have their own payment platform.
To give a high-level overview, right, the popular payment methods in China are totally different to the popular payment methods in Western markets. Right? PayPal, not used, or very rarely used, right? Google Play, Amazon, okay, they cannot take payment within China. So if you have an Android title, right, your options for payment collection in the traditional sense are very limited, right? With iOS titles, iTunes Store, Apple can now take local currency. So that's actually dramatically improved the monetization of iOS games in the China market. But then what if you have a cross-platform game, right? It might have an Android version, iOS version, sometimes a social, a web version, or a PC download version of the game.
Monetization, it's very different as well. Western customers are used to pay for good content. Culturally speaking, Chinese audience like to try it before they buy it. So just from that alone, monetization strategy needs to differ. Okay. Right.
Chinese gamers, okay, like to try out free games first. So free for download and the free-to-play model is very popular in China. But that said, for games that they like playing, they spend a lot of money. So last year alone, for the gaming market as a whole in China, it was close to a $7 billion, $8 billion US dollar business, right? But all of that money that was spent on gaming, it was not for paid downloads, right, or monthly subscription. The monetization model in China really is free for download and free to play, but there are a lot of different monetization points built into the game that users can go get a very deep experience. Unlike Western users, Chinese gamers don't mind letting people know that they pay to advance in a game. right? Or that they've paid to buy a unique item, okay, or a limited edition item within the game. You know, they actually like to show off these items in game, and they like to have different ways within the game to be able to signify to other gamers and the peers that, you know, they've got some, you know, unique differentiators in game.
In the US, the paying ratio and ARPU schema will be very different from China. China has extremely rich people, many poor people.
Right.
So when we design game, we need to push or force those extremely rich ones to pay more, a lot more, 1 million RMB, 2 million RMB per month. That will be the goal.
Okay.
Right? So then how you design it will be very different.
It is kind of a combination of Twitter and Facebook, and it is absolutely the largest in China right now. You know, with registered users of 300 million people, everybody uses Weibo here, and it is kind of the way to communicate with your friends right now and stay in touch with your friends right now.
How are you looking at the mobile market here?
Mobile is huge, of course, right?
Right.
And the advantage of Sina Weibo is that 90% of iPhone clients, 90% of iPhone has Weibo clients installed, right? 90% of Android has Weibo installed. So we have huge user base.
Are you guys profitable at this point, or are you just?
Yes, we're
You are profitable. What kinds of games are the most popular on the platform today?
Popular ones, actually pretty similar to the US market, I think.
Yeah.
Farm game, not farm game, city building game. That
Okay.
was the very first popular one. And then there was a coffee shop game. That was the second popular one. And if we're talking about profitability, then definitely games like Texas Hold'em. Yeah, and China has a huge web game market. So a lot of the web games are pretty profitable on the
Right.
market.
The challenge for Western games developers is that, as many people know, Facebook is blocked in China, Twitter is blocked in China. So suddenly, your core game mechanic, okay, is broken. Yodel One is a China-based games publishing and platform company. So our goal is very simple. We help Western game developers monetize, promote, and deeply culturalize their product for the China market.
Because Chinese people like to try it before they buy it, we're building an array of monetization tools and methods and game mechanisms into the game to improve the financial performance of the game. We're also adding local content as well. So we have basically a roadmap for the next 6 months to continue to improve upon the existing game and make it truly culturally adapted for the local market.
Youping, the name of Youping in Chinese phonetics actually sounds the same as game review, right? It's a synonym for game review. So Youping is a product to help smartphone users, either on the Android or iOS platform, better discover games, better share these game discoveries with their friends, and also directly be able to download, comment on, or create content that's related to a game that they like. So what we're trying to do with Youping is to create a fairly seamless experience that Chinese users can interact with game reviews, can interact with games that they like, and be able to share that across multiple social networks with their friends, whether it be Sina Weibo, Tencent Weibo, or Tencent QQ, Ren, and other social networks within the China market.
You need a local team. This is very important. And don't expect too high on the first game launched in China. Learn fast to learn how to make extreme reach Chinese pay more. Yeah, through your lives.
You know, game developers need to think about designing their games for a global audience. Now, this is kind of what I call the who the hell is King Arthur problem, right? So if you've created a game that for Western audiences, they know who King Arthur is, they know who Merlin is, they know the background of the quest for the Holy Grail. But try explaining to a Chinese gamer why some dude that pulls a sword out of a rock becomes the king of England, it just doesn't sink in, right? So these people grew up with, Romance of the Three Kingdoms. They understand the, the War of the Seven Kingdoms, right, in medieval China history, right? But, you throw a King Arthur, you throw a Merlin at them, and, you lose a lot of the storyline and atmosphere of the game. So, the first point of advice, pick a story and a theme that is global and can be appreciated by as many different cultures in the world as possible. Second aspect is go with monetization models, again, that are prevalent and acceptable to as many different markets and cultures as possible. Particularly initially, when the iPhone and the Android platforms first came out, the pay-for-download model was probably the most prevalent. And a lot of app developers and game developers made a lot of money doing pay-for-download, $1 per download, $2 per download, sometimes more, right? In China, the pay-for-download model is probably the worst model that you can go for. Chinese gamers have kind of been spoiled in a way that for the past 3 to 5 years, the most successful games in China are all freemium models. Free to play, free for download, but lots of different ways in which you can advance in game and spend money in game. So, the average revenue per user is actually a lot higher for the right kinds of games in the China market than you typically see in the Western market.